The lenders were deliberately generating what we call in economics and criminology a Gresham's dynamic. So when I was first studying criminology, used car dealers, when we would look in a particular jurisdiction, 49 out of 50 would roll back the odometer, right? Because if you didn't, you couldn't sell your cars. And so only the cheaters win under this system, and then market forces will drive anybody who doesn't cheat out of the marketplace.
It's one thing for individual car salesmen to roll back odometers, but for the fraud scheme to work in a multi-billion-dollar corporation with tens of thousands of employees, the CEO has to somehow get everyone else in the company to play along. But you can't just send out an email to every employee ordering them to commit a blatant fraud. So how did Roland Arnall and the other mortgage CEOs manage to make their entire companies complicit in the fraud scheme? The first step was to get rid of the professionals.
Go back a few generations, and a loan officer was a vice president at a local bank who sat in a corner office, and his job was to say no as often as he said yes. His job was to reject loans that were bad risk. Fast forward to 2004, 2005, a loan officer is a 23-year-old kid with a headset who sits down at the desk and he's dialing for dollars. He's calling as many people as he can, and he's trying to get people to sign up for loans.
The quintessential loan officer's prior job was flipping burgers. In that era, that meant you made right around $17,000 to $19,000 a year. You could get, as a loan broker, the lowest person in the totem pole, $20,000 fee for one deal. More than you made all last year flipping burgers in a single deal. And so they switched from flipping burgers to flipping houses.
Fresh faces who didn't know any better was a start, but to truly institutionalize fraud, you have to weaponize the ignorance. And that's where the trainers come in. The industry looked under every rock to find the right people to train their new loan officers, none more emblematic than Christopher Cruz, whose own training was far from the real estate world.
For those of you who haven't caught Worldwide Wrestling, and Chris has been on NWA for how long?
Mm-hmm. And it's been about 3 months, and we're really on a roll. You know, increasing our stations, increasing our ratings. It's more fun than I thought. Mm-hmm. For more money than I thought too.
Chris would be interviewed by the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission about his job as trainer for hire. He had agreed to talk to us, but declined at the last minute. However, his testimony to the FCIC was available online.
I would train for Ameriquest. And I was immediately brought on to train I'm reluctant to use the word dregs, but to bring on, to train people who had no mortgage background whatsoever. First job and out of high school or college. They had been flipping burgers, working at an In-N-Out Burger. It was the warm body syndrome. They were consistently firing and hiring.
Why firing?
They would give a particular loan officer 20 leads that day, and only 3 of them resulted in closed loans, whereas somebody else might be able to close 5 loans out of those 20 leads. It was vicious.
They'd open an office, they'd hire 12 people, and at the end of 3 months, one of them would be left. But he'd be a superstar salesman, and they would have brought more people in, and eventually they would have their dream team of people who knew how to pick up the phone and call homeowners and talk them into giving up their information so they could start a loan application.
In many cases, the person who sold you a loan made more money if they sold you a higher rate loan. And there was actually a matrix that says if you sell them a loan at 5%, you make this much. If you sell them a loan at 6%, you make this much more.
The mortgage broker would say to them, you had this little tweak here, this tweak here. I can't get you that rate, but I can get you a low rate, but it's going to be adjustable, but don't worry. Your loan payments are more likely to go down than come up. They got paid extra. They were paid additionally, the broker, for putting somebody into an adjustable rate mortgage.
And the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission has an example of this. So one of the really sleazy front-to-back criminal operations in all of this was New Century. In almost exactly half the cases, they were able to deceive their customer, rip them off, and get a huge kickback in return, which is exactly what it is. You get a kickback if you successfully cheat your customer, and only if you successfully cheat your customer.
Hey all, become that person nobody dares to argue with. Hit like, subscribe, and that little bell button for notifications. Talk to you soon.